Welcome everyone. This week's podcast is a bit longer, it's an hour, but it's a recording of my webinar I did on the often overlooked causes of behaviour. It's a deep dive into understanding the sensory causes that we often overlook in our classrooms and homes. It's relevant from early years right through to secondary. I highly recommend you go to my podcast page and download the ebook and the handout so that you have the top tips that complement what I'm talking about to make a difference to you and the children you know. Hi everyone, welcome to the Sue Larkey podcast. As I always say, you have to embrace difference to make a difference. Let's dive into today's podcast. So I make it 4 o'clock, so we are going to do a deep dive in for our hour of power. Welcome everybody. Thank you absolutely so it's just to remind me to record. I'm so excited to have you all on here to share so many things I wish I had known. So it's going to be a deep dive. I have got all your wonderful questions. Don't worry if you didn't send in a question. There's more than enough questions we're going to answer. And I am always available to answer your questions. So you can just email me after this and go, Sue, I watched your webinar or joined you. You know, I just want some more help. I love helping people, and often then I post them in my Facebook group or in my community. I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning. I call myself a pracademic, which is a practical academic. But what I'm going to share with you today is the shortcuts. What I try and do is give you the practical strategies and ideas that I wished I had. Or if people ask me questions, like a couple of weeks ago, someone's like, how do I set up my calm area? I asked on Facebook, I had like over 200 comments, then I'll condense that down to one tip sheet. So if you're setting up a calm area, I've done all the hard work. So I guess I try and be your time saver. That's how I look at it. All my books are time savers. So I try and be a time saver for you. So this afternoon, whether you're a teacher, an educator, a parent, a carer, I know we've got some grandparents on here, this afternoon is really just going to be lots of practical tips to make a difference to you. But just remember, I have never met two children the same. I've worked with over 3,000 children. To know someone with autism is not to know autism. Some of you might be working with children who are not diagnosed. Well, often you're still trying to work out what strategies they need. So please understand, it's really about being eclectic. Not every strategy works for everybody. Strategies wear out. And in my experience, most strategies work for 1 in 10 children. So in this hour, I honestly just want you to take away 2 or 3 things. In an hour, that's a lot to take away. So just don't expect all of it to be relevant to you, because some of them are very specific questions that people have asked me. So can you just listen in the next hour, but be an active listener, be ready with your pen and paper, and just try and find a few little nuggets to make a difference to you. So, I've just looked here. I think Andrew's uploaded the wrong talk, but that's okay. I can work with it. I just added in some new notes to this earlier. It's all good. So what I wished I had known 30 years ago is that how different each child is, but we didn't talk about sensory 30 years ago. In my experience, we only started talking about sensory it first came into the diagnostic in 2013, but actually we only started talking about sensory and the impact of sensory very recently. In fact, I had lots of friends that did occupational therapy at uni, and I never thought to ask them about sensory. I thought they worked with older people or people who were in nursing homes, or I did not know OTs worked with children. And maybe that was because of my experience, but now occupational therapists work with very young children and many diagnosed children. Tell me in the chat, did you learn about sensory challenges at uni? Yes or no? Or if you're a parent, did you know that sensory had a huge impact on kids? Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely. And that is my experience too. Absolutely. So the reason I really wanted to learn about sensory is because I saw so many behaviors that were sensory. And when I went to an autism school in Melbourne, Western Autistic School, and it was funny, Andrew and I were just reflecting this week that when I started at Western Autistic School, and some of you in Melbourne know how big it is now, we were in an old house and had a couple of portables. My classroom was the stables. We had 3 classes. I think it was like 18 students. There's now hundreds of children at Western Autistic School. So I started, it was very small. But one of the things we did have was an amazing occupational therapist who was actually in the old house, and the poor thing, because the staff toilets were through there, so we're constantly interrupting her sessions. But I used to spend all my relief time going in to learn, because I was just fascinated how different the children were when they came back from having occupational therapy. I would see a massive difference. And so I was like, I want to understand this. So I became really passionate about learning about sensory, and it still wasn't part of the diagnostic, but I just knew the massive difference it made to the children. And at that time, I was actually doing my master's in special education, and I needed to do my thesis. And I decided to do it on visuals, and that was new too. Visuals were quite new. I know I'm looking young, but visuals were quite new then. And the reason we're all talking about visuals is because Temple Grandin had just come out writing oops, someone's not muted.
I don't know who.
Sorry. Written her first book called Thinking in Pictures. Now, this is her latest edition, but that was a long time ago. But when Temple wrote Thinking in Pictures, I had to send away to America. It took 3 months for this to arrive. And now, if you don't know Temple, I'm going to explain more about her in a minute. But now that I'm trying to think how many thousands of this book, and, you know, she's considered one of the top 100 influential women in the world. But she's definitely my mentor and has guided me for many years. And if nothing else, I would recommend this year that you read A Lived Experience by a person on the spectrum, because so often they share their personal experience of sensory and the massive impact. So a year ago, I created a new course with Temple Grandin, and we collaborated. And one of the things she talked about is she believed that we should be actually researching sensory more, that we're not talking enough about sensory, that our main focus should be on sensory. For her, sensory impacts her social. She can't go into a busy restaurant because of the noise. For her, she believes her eye contact is about sensory, actually being able to look and concentrate the sensory, and that's why it's painful. So she shared a lot in the conversations and the collaboration about her sensory. In fact, in the talk, she had a little paper clip. Oh, I'm not sure I've got one here. But she had little paper clips she was playing with the whole time and drew all over her page. Give me a yes in the chat. If you've got students who constantly have little things or drawing, who's got yes. Now, here's Temple, considered one of the top 100 influential women in the world. And when I was interviewing her, you would not have known that. Thank you for all those yeses. So I found that fascinating. So I am still learning from Temple. So when I was talking to Temple, she really pointed out the massive impact it had on her sensory. So that's why I really wanted to put together this webinar. And I did one a year ago, and then I got feedback from everyone on that webinar, and I've updated it. I've added in new things, as well as to the ebook. So make sure you download the ebook, because in there I've got lots of quotes from Temple and then tips that relate to what she says, what it is like for her today. But what I like is this. Temple said this, which I think is so interesting. My nervous system was all hyped up, like in a jungle full of dangerous animals for no reason. How can you socialize if the environment is hurting you from a sensory standpoint? I know the playground's busy and sensory, but this word hurting, that the sensory hurts. Give me a yes in the chat if you've seen that in the kids, where the sensory environment actually hurts. It's painful for them. So we actually have to address this for children to learn. How can they learn if the environment's painful? How can they socialize in a school with 500 children if the environment is painful? Can you imagine what that is like? So If you haven't downloaded the ebook, it will be with the replay, but it was on the page telling you all the information about today. And I highly recommend you download it so you can refer back to it, because what I've done is, like, Temple talks about her sensory processing, and then I've actually said, well, here's the problem, here are the tips you can put in place. And remember, not every strategy works for everybody, so you might just choose a few of those strategies. So for me, it just reminded me, as I've said, about how important sensory is and why we need to address it. Now, those of you who have done mine or Tony Atwood's courses, you've heard me talk about sensory. You've heard me talk about sensory meltdowns. However, in my experience, we have to put in place little strategies every day to address the sensory. And a lot of your questions for today actually, I think, are fantastic, and I love getting all those questions. But so often sensory is about being proactive, not reactive. Because once a child's having a sensory meltdown, it's game over. You know, their amygdala is so engaged, they can't focus. They often can't hear you. They have to put output to block input. So once they've got to that point, it's nearly too late. You've got children who are hitting, spitting, all sorts of behavior that absolutely can be sensory, but often we have to get and be proactive. And the way to be proactive is to work out, okay, what are the sensory challenges for this child? And each child's very different, as you're going to hear today. But I thought I'd start off with just the trailer from Temple's video, because it really helps us understand that sensory can be used as a positive too. Sensory can be used to help children regulate. So I'm just going to put on a little excerpt from the video and you can watch what Temple is. Oh, this is Claire Danes playing Temple Grandin, and Claire Danes won 5 Golden Emmys, Golden Globe awards at the Emmys for her performance of Temple Grandin. I have met Temple Grandin on many occasions. I have read her books, and Claire Danes was amazing. But many of us joke that Temple Grandin was the first woman to go on to the Golden Globes in her cowboy uniform, you know, with her tie up very tight and her tight jeans and her belt and her boots, because Temple will say she finds clothes scratchy. She likes deep pressure, and she in fact invented a squeeze machine to give her deep pressure. And what Temple has done is made her clothing give her deep pressure. I was in a school last week that have a child that doesn't like the uniform. They find it scratchy. So often I have to put the jet-proof clothing. If you don't know them, they're in Newcastle and they do deep pressure clothing, but you can even just get skins, put something underneath. But Temple, by having, see, I couldn't stand a tight collar. Tell me in the chat, who would hate wearing a tie up tight all day? Yes or no? Are you a yes or no for a tight tie? Yeah, see, I would hate it. So, for people on the spectrum though, like Temple, she loves it. It makes her feel better. So she actually wore her classic Temple clothes to the Golden Globes, which I just love. I love that she knew that's what she needed to do to get through. Okay, I'm going to pop on the video.
Autism is not a psychological problem.
I am not familiar with the remedy.
Calm down, sweetie. Sweetie, calm down.
It would be better if you could get her to sit calmly. Try to control her.
But we were told self-stimming is good. It eventually calms them.
Self-steady is self-comforting.
Self-stimulation, rocking, spinning, rolling on the floor, flapping.
Well, I think spinning is good. And rolling, too. Self-stimulation does seem to eventually calm the nervous system. It can be a way to compensate for not being held. And being held by another person is scary, but rolling or being held by surfaces produces the calming effect that ordinary children get from a hug.
How old's your child?
Well, I don't have children. No, I'm autistic. And I need the sensation of being hugged. And I've developed a machine that I get into and hugs me, and I'm different afterwards. I'm more social. Well, I didn't speak until I was 4. Now I have a BA and a master's, and I'm studying for my doctorate.
How did you learn to speak? What did you talk about? Please don't shout. Please don't.
Most autistic people are very sensitive to sounds and colors. Overstimulation hurts. You know, people talking too much at once, you know, can cause us to panic.
How did you get cured?
Well, I'm not cured. I'll always be autistic. My mother refused to believe that I wouldn't speak. And when I learned to speak, she made me go to school. And in school and at home, manners and rules were really important. They were pounded into me. I was lucky. All these things worked for me. Everyone worked hard to make sure that I was engaged. And they knew I was different, but not less. I had a gift. I could see the world in a new way. I could see details that other people were blind to. My mother pushed me to become self-sufficient. I worked summers at my aunt's ranch. I went to boarding school and college. Those things were uncomfortable for me at first, but they helped me to open doors to new worlds.
Excuse me, please, but we want to hear everything.
Okay, share in the chat anything you found interesting in that little trailer. What did you find interesting? Share in the chat. Yeah, I loved it too. It's very moving. I always get a bit teary if I'm honest. Yeah, people's reaction to her overload. I love that. Thank you. I really like how she says that the stimulation can calm the nervous system, which is what occupational therapists do, and why we need to understand how to calm a child's nervous system. When I was talking to Temple, I asked her, are you still using your squeeze machine? And she said no, because she's got used to hugging people now, and she likes actually the physical touch. Now, when I work with occupational therapists, that's what they would say, that when you desensitize, that for some children, the desensitization is over time, they might actually like things that they didn't like. And I've had that happen with some of my children who didn't like Play-Doh, those of you in the early years, and end up loving it, and didn't like sticky things like, not Play-Doh, finger painting, and then they end up loving it. So I love that movie. So some of you are wanting to know, so I just grabbed it. So that's the movie, Temple Grandin. It is just called Temple Grandin. It hasn't been on a lot of the paid TV, but have a look. We did have it on the website. I'm not sure if we've got any left. I have meant to check today. But tell me in the chat, are you a read the book or watch the movie? What are you? What would you do first? Read the book or watch the movie? Both. I end up doing both, but I normally I like to start with reading the book. So yeah, I always like the book first. So give me a thumbs up if you read Where the Crawdads Are. Give me a thumbs up. Who's been to the movie? See, I'm excited that it's come out, but I like reading the book first. Yep, Susie, you've said, yeah, I can't wait to see the movie. Okay, so with Temple, what I love, she gave us such amazing insights into the impact on her learning and engagement. And I know I am not an occupational therapist, but I know the importance of understanding sensory in my classroom. And I call myself a pracademic. Now, Christina, you wanted to know about a couple of things. And here's the thing. I would be Googling these terms. I've never heard of them. But listen up, everyone, because if you know, I want you to tell Christina. This is what I love about my community. She said, what is the difference between sensory-based motor disorder and sensory discrimination disorder? Does anybody know? Because I have no idea. And this is the thing, I'm still learning. I am not an occupational therapist. I have not heard of those, but I will be Googling them and I'll ask on my Facebook. And so often that's what I love about my Facebook community. I'll go in there and ask them what they know about these things. But I met a parent 2 weeks ago who is English as a second language, and she said her biggest frustration is the amount of acronyms that people use all the time. So I'm going to put a sheet of acronyms together because I agree. Give me a thumbs up in the emojis if you agree. There's constantly new acronyms, so many things. And imagine a parent whose English is a second language, how confusing that is, and things constantly changing. So they're the sorts of things I like to help with. So keep an eye on my Facebook because I'm going to gather from everybody any acronyms that you think you wished you'd known or they took you ages to know what they are. So we're always hearing new things and not really sure what they are. And that's what I think. We're all going to work together on that. Okay. So in my questions from people, I had a lot of questions. So Kit wanted to know about sucking. Jess H wanted to know about following directions. And somebody wanted to know about finding the right sensory tools. So I did have this down as a prize to win anyway, but I thought I would show you. This is one of my absolute favourite books to work out sensory. So Beth, who's an occupational therapist, helped write this book. And what Beth has done in this book is amazing. So you can look up. So we had Kit, who's got a child sucking. Now in this book, she talks about chewing and sucking on items. And in the book, she says, allow the student a drink from a water bottle that has a large plastic straw, okay? And they can get the oral impact by chewing or sucking on the straw. Now, I know it's quite hard to find plastic straws now, but some of the children need that oral input, the chewing and sucking, otherwise they end up on their clothing. So this book I call See a Behaviour, Look It Up. So for example, who was it? The person who didn't include their name in their question wanted to know about what sensory tools I recommended, what fidgets. Well, they've got a whole list in here and why to use them, which is brilliant. The reason I love this book is that so often as a teacher, I think of things like a child who's having difficulty at carpet time, which we'll talk about in a minute anyway. I'll think of things, but so often I don't think of the sensory thing. And so this often makes me ensures I'm covering the sensory as well, like difficulty following directions. As a teacher, we tend to think of the executive functioning and the routines, but often in this book, it'll have something very different that is sensory. So allow the child to eat crunchy or chewy foods or drink of water from a water bottle. This will help them focus and be organized. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. But so often I don't think of those things. So if you look in your handout, or maybe it was an ebook, I've got all my favorite resources in there. But this book, what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose some winners now to win this book, which I absolutely love. So let me choose. We have Louise Abraham. Give me a big wave. Yay, you're a winner. We have Natasha Stanford. Are you there? I can see Natasha. Oh, somebody's unmuted. Sorry. Natasha, we're going to have Amanda Torelli. So Amanda, give me a wave. Brilliant. Janet Hill, you look enthusiastic. Yay, Janet. And hang on, there was someone waving back there. I need your full names. Tanya Flores, I love your big waves. Fantastic. Okay, don't worry, there's going to be more prizes. So if you haven't seen this book, I carry it around all the time, and it really is a fabulous book. So in the handout, it explains what to do if you win a prize today. But the good news is you can still win. Just when I send out the email with the replay, you can go in a draw to win. You just need to answer one easy question, and it's the name of the movie you just watched. Just saying, okay? It's pretty simple. So it's just a really simple. Okay, I should delete that for the people who are just watching the replay. But anyway, so I've mentioned the movie. So next week, put in your diary to watch the first lesson of the Temple Grandin course. Now, I know we've got people in here who have done the Temple Grandin course. Can you tell me in the chat if you recommend the Temple Grandin course? Because I personally think it's my best course. I absolutely love it because you've got a lived experience in myself. And I learned a huge amount. It's all new things. Like Temple gives her... absolutely. Thanks, Nicole. Temple talks, I interview Temple, and then I give how to apply that in the classroom. So keep an eye out. I'll send that to you on Monday, and a whole nother ebook with top tips from Temple and myself to understanding all sorts of things. Today's just on sensory. That course covers all sorts of things. Thanks, Tina, that you loved it. So what I'm going to do though is get some winners for the course. So the course is like $205. It's going to be on special next week, but I'm going to choose some winners for the course. So give me a big wave if you want to win the Temple Grandin course. Helen Greer, yep, thumbs up, beautiful. Oh gosh, you're all moving really quick. Oh my goodness, my screen's flicking around. Oh, this is really weird. Okay, give me a moment. Okay, Susie Atkinson. Number 2, we're going to have, hang on. This is really weird. I don't know why it's doing that. It's not done this before. Oh my god. Hang on. Sorry. This is, sorry, darling. You're just going to have to mute because I can't see everybody. Sarah Barnes, was that you talking? I'm giving it to you. Gail Manson, you're a winner. And Poi Sterira, who had a little thumbs up. Excellent. And I'm going to do one more. Natalie Singara. Sorry, the names are going past so fast. I have no idea. Normally it's frozen and I can choose it. So anyway, I hope we've picked a whole lot of winners there. I love all the hands up and I love the enthusiasm. So you will get access to the course and I'm sure you'll love it. Okay. Oh, I've got half an hour of power to go. So as I mentioned that originally the DSM didn't talk about sensory, but it's so important that we talk about sensory. But it's both over and under reaction. And it's not just kids with autism, it's many neurodiverse children who have sensory processing difficulties. And I'm sure many of you have sensory things too. But can you imagine that that actually hurts and painful and that you've got a lot of sensory issues? So as I said at the start, remember, each child is very individual. Strategies wear out. Not every strategy works for everybody. And sorry, I'm just looking because I had a question here. Oh, I've lost it. But somebody was saying about with relief teachers. And can I say, often with relief teachers, the children are hypersensitive because often relief teachers get a bit louder than their normal teacher because they are new to the room or they might be a little bit more anxious, and some of my children pick up on that anxiety. So remember, that is why my children often react differently. Or one of my boys was petrified because the relief teacher brought in a bell one day. Give me a yes in the strategies, how you can see a new adult is a sensory trigger for some of my children. Yeah, fantastic. But I have to tell you, one of my little students years ago, Adrian, said to me, "Oh, it's not the teacher, Mrs. Larkey. It's the other children. They go weird. They change their names. They swat spots. Nod your head if you know what I'm saying. Like the kids all change." Brilliant. Okay. So I've just got to look here. Oh, yes. And Christina, you had about sensory tools wearing out and what to use. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But one of the things is absolutely sensory tools stop working. Or has the child's sensory regulation improved so it feels like it stopped working? Because, see, I can read really well now. I've got my glasses on because I've got the tool. So in my experience, sometimes once they've got the tool and they're regulating, it's not that it hasn't worn out, it's worn out, it's just it's working. So we have to weigh up, has it worn out or is it actually working, and therefore we don't notice so much that they need it. So I want you all, this is getting your brains in gear, I know, but I think this is really important. And this is from my Facebook community where I asked, what are some of the times that you get sensory challenges? So I want you in the chat, just have a read of this and share which numbers have you seen in the kids you know. Which of these things can cause challenges? Wow. I'm looking, some of you have got heaps of them. Wow. And anything else, when you're reading that, is there other things you go, oh, what? No, there's something else that I've seen. All of them. Oh my goodness, almost all of them. Wow. Look at all those. Amazing, amazing. You guys are super focused. I love it. Okay, so let's look at something like, controlling our voice or volume. For some of my children, can you give me a thumbs up if you've got a child who hates noise? Who's got a child? Hands over ears, slightest noise, thumbs up. Thank you, Courtney. You can give me a real thumbs up or give me an emoji. Give me a love heart if you have a kid who's really loud and can't regulate their voice. They're always super loud. And I love it when people go, use your inside voice. If you're on the spectrum and you're literal, you're inside and you're using your voice. Can you see they are inside and using their inside voice? They actually don't know what an inside voice is. So if you're literal, that does not make sense. So you need to make it more visual. And in that little book, they have got ideas. But in my developing social skills, what I like to do is have like a visual wheel that shows the child just right, getting too loud, much too loud, or you might use characters they know, or you might, one of my little boys responded really well to like a volume control, like the TV volume and going like up 1 to 10. He understood that much better for me to help him understand. But the same, I had a little girl who would only whisper. She was nearly selective mute, but often just very quiet and whispered. So I had to turn her volume up. And I found that a much nicer way to do it than saying, talk up. So I could just visually point to where her voice was on the scale to show her these things. So for many of my children though, these are all indicators of the sensory challenges. And in fact, parents notice sensory from a very young age. It's often the first thing that they notice. So get ready on the emojis because I want to hear a few more of these. So give me a thumbs up if you have a child who touches everything, has to touch everything. The first thing they do is touch. Okay. Give me a love heart if you have a child who the slightest touch, they're like, he hit me, she hurt me. So can you see how different the kids are? Okay, next one's always an interesting one. Give me a thumbs up if you have a child who puts everything in their mouth, eats everything, constant, everything in their mouth, Play-Doh, everything. Give me a love heart, limited food, just white, very strict diet, doesn't like a range of food, doesn't like food touching, very fussy with their food. Love it. Okay, smelling. Give me a thumbs up if you have a child, the first thing they do is sniff. They're a sniffer. The first thing they do is sniff everything. They would love to sniff. In the early years, I see this a lot. Give me a love heart if can't cook, when the parents can't cook, or when the lunch orders come in, the dry reach, they can't eat around other children because of the smell and sound often. Wow. So look at the extremes we're getting. Okay, I'll stop getting you to do that. But what I want you to understand, we have children who look at everything and who stim, who actually use that to help them calm, and children who struggle to visually focus on things, who have trouble tracking. We have children who love sound, make sound, and children who hate sound. And we have children who seek constant movement, always on the go. When I worked at the autism school, we spent thousands of dollars on fences and security, and the kids could still climb over those fences and get out because they love movement. I had one little boy that could shimmy like a koala bear. He was amazing. He seeked constant movement. So we know each child's very individual, but they are all the external sensory. What I think we often forget is the interoception, the internal sensory. In the past, we talked a lot about the external, but the internal, we can't see that. We often only see behavior. So internal is hunger, thirst, tired, need the toilet. Share in the chat. It's 4:35-ish. You've had nothing to pretend you've had nothing to eat, drink, busting for the toilet and tired. What's your focus going to be like? Share in the chat. How would your focus be if you were like that? Blah. I love it, Janet. Rubbish, miserable, slow, no focus. Yes. Hangry. Thank you. But for so many of our children, we don't rule this out when we look at behavior. It's the number one question I ask. And when I worked in the autism school, we actually had that scheduled so that we ruled it out. We made sure every child had food when they came in the morning, that they had movement, that they had drink, that they had toilet before we started any learning. I haven't been in a special school that doesn't include all of these things on the schedule and check the child actually is eating and drinking. So interoception, many of my children don't know they're hungry till they're starving. I had an email at the end of last term with a school where a child's eating their lunch at morning tea when they're really hungry. That's why maybe they need a sandwich at morning tea and lunch. Thirst. Some of my children don't know they're thirsty till they drink the whole bottle. And I know we've got some South Australian teachers on here. I remember when I was working in South Australia, often schools had bottles on the table, but a lot of my children didn't think to drink because they don't know they're thirsty. You and I know we're thirsty. So actually just having lunch in a lunchbox doesn't mean a child will eat it. Having a drink doesn't mean that they will drink. But many of my children, it's not just thirst and hunger and toilet. It's they don't know they're tired until the devices are off. They don't know they're tired until they're exhausted. ADHD kids, the parents often say they're like an ever-ready battery. They go and then just fall asleep. Yes? Can you give me a yes in the chat if you've seen this in children who don't know? Like if you're in the early childhood, they don't know to rest. In secondary, they're not going to bed at night because they'll say, I'm not tired. So I know I've got some secondary school and post-school options on here. So often it needs to be a routine. We have to have a routine, food, drink, going to bed, because many of our children don't know how to regulate that. They don't know they need the toilet. Now, those of you in the younger years, the way to know if a child's interoception is off is this. Do they ask to go to the toilet and wet their pants on the way? That tells me that they're already full before they ask to go. So once they ask, it's too late. So this is why it's really important we understand these internal. So one of the emails I had, and I included this last year in the webinar, and I just thought it was amazing, and I wanted to read to you. So this is a parent, Deb, who said her watershed moment was understanding interoception and why he can't self-regulate. He looks okay from the outside and suddenly explodes. And I know I've got a couple of people in who ask questions about this, children who just suddenly explode. Why he doesn't understand how his own body feels from the inside out. And how cute is this? He said, what sort of tummy ache is it? Do I need a poo? Am I hungry? I don't know, Mum. So can you understand that disconnect? Can you imagine not knowing, am I hungry or need a poo? You know, am I thirsty or am I tired? Because a lot of my children do not know the difference. Can you give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if that makes sense? You've seen this in these children where they don't know their internal. Fantastic. So when I said this workshop is the often overlooked things that cause the domino effect, you all said what it's like. If you've had nothing to eat, drink, food, it is a domino effect. Understanding interoception is so important. So make sure you have a look in the ebook because I've got lots of strategies in there around understanding the internal. But my favorite saying is, it's easier to change the structure than change the child. So I could keep talking about interoception forever, but I want to give you solutions. And I believe the solution is routine, toilet, drink, using timers, actually having that visual timer. Now, I like timers because they're visual and the child can see it. If you just have a clock, they mightn't be able to read it, but also the digital time, it doesn't actually show them that beautiful visual. So what I like to do is we're going to do 25 minutes work, and then you can go for a walk and have a drink. You're going to do 25 minutes work, then you can go for a walk and have a snack. We're going to do 25 minutes work, and then you can go for a walk and go to the toilet. So routine times to go. Now I'm going to talk in a minute what about the other children, but I want to rule this out. I want to make sure that I have ruled out in the classroom 3 times a day, toilet, drink, food. And those of you in the early years, you might want to make sure you include those movement breaks in there. I would prefer to be proactive than reactive because so often once the child has the sensory overload, it's very hard to bring them back down. So we want to rule these things out. Sorry, I'm just having a look because someone had a question about this. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but Dev, I think, had a child who's spitting. In my experience, once they're spitting, remember Temple said the self-stimulation does seem to calm the nervous system. Once they're spitting, they're trying to calm the nervous system. I would be looking, what can we put in place to reduce that spitting? And I would be trying out toilet, drink. It might be internal or external that makes a child spit. So great question. So, Emma, I love your question. Emma M. In the early years, how do we help? Well, in my podcast with Kay, who wrote Are You Feeling Cold, Yuki, which is about interception, she said this great quote, that you never can give away too much information when you're talking about your internal. I want every one of you over the next week to start talking about your internal. Oh, I've got a tummy ache. I'm hungry. I've got a tummy ache. I need the toilet. Especially, Emma, you're in the early years. So we need to talk about. Kay would say there's never too much information. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I want all of you to talk about your internal, because I don't think we talk about our internal enough. We don't actually share it. So if you don't know Kay's book, she has written that whole book, The Red Beast, and her latest is Yuki, and she uses a thing called therapeutic storytelling, and it's a great way to teach children about all their emotions. So this one's about anger, there's an anxiety, there's a Winston the Wallaby, but I thought, this is her latest book, I thought we can do some winners for the latest book. So let me choose some winners. We're going to have, oh no, it's doing that flicking thing again. This is so annoying. Okay, I'm just going to have a look in the chat. Okay, tell me in the chat if you want to win. It's going to have to be, oh no, that's going to go just as fast. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. Okay, bear with me. Okay, Janelle Boyd, you are a winner there on the couch. I love it. Okay. Sarah W.R.O. Waronsky. I hope I've already given you a prize because it was a Sarah before. Let me have a look. Patricia. Oh, no, I didn't get the surname. I'm sorry. That's mean, but I need the surname. Okay. Amanda Wheeler. Fantastic. And Belinda Baker. You're a winner. Okay. And if you're in New Zealand, I can still get them to you there too, or wherever you are. We'll work out a way to get there. My team will kill me, but that's okay. Remember, in your handout explains what to do if you've won. Now, the big thing today is we want to look beyond the obvious. So we see a child, Tracy, a child hitting, or Nicole, a child who is rubbing themselves and stimming. We need to work out what's happening below the surface. And when I asked in the questionnaire, those of you who did it, what are the biggest challenges you had? Sitting still, following directions, student running away, difficulty keeping on task, constantly needing the toilet. The biggest one that came out was following directions. I highly recommend you look in the ebook about auditory processing, because very often that's an auditory processing. All the children are moving and they're trying to follow directions. And when I went to school, the teacher stood at the front of the room and it was easy to know where to look. Now teachers move around, it's hard to know where the directions are coming from. But as soon as everyone gets up and move, that's why we get the most behaviour during transition. So it makes sense. So I thought we'd just do a quick little example. What behaviour do you see when a child is sitting on the mat or at their table at assembly? So think of what sensory behaviours you see. Share in the chat. What do you see? What do you see from the child? Rocking, fidgeting, moving their feet, touching others. Thank you. I love that. Okay, so if we think about that, remember Temple said often that would be lying down. Yes, that's a big one, the lying down. So for many of our children, they are trying to self-regulate. And remember, I prefer to change the structure than the child. Now, in your handout, and somebody wanted to know a pro forma that they could use. Sorry. In the handout, there's a pro forma that I recommend you use to go through to try and work out, well, what is the behaviour? Is it visual, auditory? What are the challenges that the child might be facing and why they are lying down, moving, doing all these things? So, for example, a child sitting. We can have children who touch others or don't like touch, who don't like the feel of the floor, or even their clothing might start to annoy them, or their shoes. Not so much taste with sitting, but smell. Often the smell of the other children. I had one boy who hated getting changed into his phys ed gear because everyone was spraying their deodorant around. We can have children who find it hard when there's lots of children sitting to see the teacher through the heads of other people. So they're always moving and trying to move around to see the big book or what's happening. We can have the sound, like all the noises of children shushing each other, or children talking loudly, or one of my boys hates it when people sing. He gets really upset. And we then have all the movement, like hands up, moving, like there's so much movement when children are sitting. Plus, imagine you're tired, thirsty, hungry. Imagine all that, or overheating. Like that is part of the internal. We have children in Melbourne on a freezing cold day who have a t-shirt on, or on a hot day in Queensland insist on wearing a jumper. These are all not knowing their internal. So I think it's easier to change the structure than change the child. For some of my children, you might actually give them a sensory mat. Or the child who's laying everywhere might need something heavy, like they might need something weighted. Or the child who's constantly fidgeting, you might give them my favourite little wooden massagers. But one of the things I have found is actually letting them know how long they need to sit. So using the timer to tell them. But if you know you're going to assembly, before you go to assembly, toilet, drink, food. Make sure you rule those things out. Now, what are some other ways you can help? So I have put here, and I would love you to tell me in the chat, have you used any of these or found them helpful? Because I'm just looking, John in New Zealand, your question was great. And you've used a lot of these, but I would love you to look at the list and think which ones you haven't used yet. So I'm just trying to find John's question. His question was about, this was a transition, a child moving between classrooms. You're getting a lot of behaviour. So my experience, letting the child go first, letting them go, thank you, Kylie, sending them first, because often there's not so much noise and movement. Or waiting till everyone's settled. And I wondered, John, if that's why you're getting behaviour, if especially secondary, there's so much noise and movement that's why he's sitting to the side. So let him come in last. Warning how long the activity is going to last, because many of my children can push through sensory, and that's what Temple would say. She can go to a noisy restaurant if she knows it's just going to be an hour. Offer breaks. Give a job. Now, some of you in the younger years have been doing that, and there were some great things you've tried, letting the child get up and move and try some jobs. Identify the triggers, and it could be clothing adjustments, because Temple Grandin talked about at church, she had to wear a dress and she found it scratchy. But, cutting the labels out of the clothing, why not just cut it out? Choose your battles. But teaching self-regulation techniques. I have a favourite saying, never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down. Actually teaching the children self-regulation techniques. Now, my beautiful PA, her daughter Tara, has been working in as a teacher assistant. A little boy was having a meltdown yesterday, and because Tara's known me for a long time, she said to him, "What's making you have big feelings?" And he said, "My pants are scratchy." Well, can you imagine if you had scratchy pants? They changed his pants and he was fine. Now, he could actually verbalize that. I believe we need to teach emotional literacy. Many of my children can't verbalize that. The only way is to have behavior. So someone had a child breaking everything. They're going to keep finding things to break unless you work out what is causing the behavior, okay? So in my experience, I replace one behavior with another. Yes, they're going to break the iPad because you still haven't addressed the underlying challenge. Now, I haven't always wished I could climb in a child's brain. There's no easy way to know what it is, but it is a trial and error and trying to work out what that child needs. But in my experience, trying to give them emotional literacy. So that's why I'm encouraging you to talk through your own emotions. But I mean internal, like hungry, thirsty, angry, talk through these things because so many of my children don't know them. Now, I've included also there, like in transition, no wonder we get so much behavior, as I just talked about, the touch, the noise, the moving, being asked to hold hands. Like, I want all of you, there's a lot of early years teachers on here. Can you all put your hands up like that, like holding hands? Can you feel the sensory? Because lots of my kids hate that sensory hand on hand. Can you imagine how horrible that is? What a lot of my children prefer, put your hand in a fist and put your hand over the top. Can you see that's less sensory? Thank you, Patricia. Then go back to like this. This is so much more sensory when children do this compared to that. So often I teach the other children to hold the child with neurodiversity's hands like that. A lot of my children don't like lining up because of the touch, but it's more in the early years when you go hold hands. They're like, they'll drop to the ground and run away. So little things like that can make a big difference. Noise, movement, all of these things. But can you tell me in the chat, if you were going, like, pretend you had to go on a train now and it was going to be really crowded and noisy and you were hungry, tired, busting for the toilet. Tell me in the chat, yes or no, would you be more reactive to that busy environment? Would you be more reactive? Yes. So we must rule this out because I know when I'm busting for the toilet, I'm far more reactive. So imagine a child that doesn't know that. They might bite, hit, scream because they have no other way of letting you know that's what's going on. So we're going to have a bit of fun now. Some of you have been to my workshops, have done this before, but I just thought it was a fabulous way to finish off with a bit of using sensory tools and why we should use them. So we're going to have a little debate. So I want everybody ready in the chat, please. Everybody get in the chat ready to answer these questions, okay? If your name starts with A, B, C, D, or E, you believe reading glasses should be banned. Tell me in the chat, why should reading glasses be banned? Have a bit of fun. Come on, tell me in the chat. A, B, C, D, or E. Reading glasses should be banned. No, you have to. It's a debate. It's fun. You can't say no. Yes, you believe they should, okay? You believe they should be banned. We're just having a bit of fun here. Okay, if your name starts with an F to J, you believe they shouldn't be banned. Tell us in the chat why they shouldn't be banned, okay? Excellent. Annoying. Okay. They cost a lot of money. Okay. I'm loving all your things. This is brilliant. Okay. If your name starts with a K to P, you believe that just like reading glasses should be banned, you believe kids shouldn't be allowed the snack, the water, the toilet. No way, Sue Lucky. I don't agree with anything you've said today. Tell me in the chat why kids shouldn't be allowed these things. Tell me in the chat. They're distracting. It's not fair. I'm loving it. Okay, last but not least, anyone who hasn't had a turn, you believe, actually, Sue, yep, what you've been talking about makes a lot of sense. They shouldn't be banned. Children should be allowed to go to the toilet, get a drink, have extra food. For well-being. Thank you so much. Excellent. Okay, someone needs to mute. So here's what I believe, that some of you, reading glasses should be banned. You're like, they're expensive. They get broken, you know. They need replacing regularly. Yeah, like regularly. I'm making up words. Then those of you, glasses shouldn't be banned. They help children focus, stay on task. Glasses help children read for longer. Without their glasses, they're going to replace it with body behaviour. Remember, if we take away the person who had a child sucking their clothes, we take that away, they're just going to suck something else. But giving them the straw is like giving them the sensory tool. Those of you who said sensory tools shouldn't be banned, hopefully you realise that glasses are exactly the same as this. These help me focus, these help children focus. They have exactly the same learning outcome. Letting a child go to the toilet is exactly like letting me have my glasses. They help me stay on task. But some of you did the old, it's not fair, all the other children will want them. And I just want to remind you, fair isn't everybody getting the same thing. Fair is everybody getting what they need in order to be successful. For many of my children who need an apple drink with a straw, I actually find them the best straw drinks. Letting them have that is no different to letting me have glasses. It helps me focus and stay on task. Now, somebody wanted to know about how do you find the right sensory tools. In my experience, when I go to get my glasses, they put 2 lenses in and they say, which one can you see better out of? I will actually give the child a couple of sensory tools and see which ones help them regulate, which ones are useful. So if they throw that away, I know it's not helpful. See, with my glasses, I don't lose them. I remember to wear them because I need them. I find when I find the right sensory tools, they make the world of difference. Can you share in the chat what sensory tools are you using and finding helpful? I would love to know what you're using. Poppets, fantastic. Sensory mats, blue tack. Yes, I've got some blue tack here. And any of you who had kids love blue tack, I also find these great, the little stretch toys. Wobblies, love it, love it, love it. Fantastic. I mean, even some of my kids just love something like this. Yes, I love it. Fantastic. Love it. Well done. I love seeing all those things. So in the chat, I would love you to share your top takeaway from the last hour. Like, what's your aha moment? What is your, oh yeah, that was really good, Sue. I really like that. Share your one thing. Oh, medicine ball. Thank you, Nicole. I need to know more. Okay, I agree. I'm still learning. I'm always learning. Now, I had a list of a few people's, but as I say, some reason the talk I changed lots of your questions into didn't upload. But Becky, you wanted to know about children touching private parts. And when I interviewed Beth on my podcast, she said more heavy activities and monkey bars were really good for children who are doing that self-stimulation and rubbing. So give it a go. More monkey bars, more getting on doing those hanging activities, because a lot of the things you have already tried were great, but I noticed you didn't have that one. So give that one a try. There were a few other people. Lovely Sakiti, I know you're on here. You mentioned where one child sets another child off. When I was in a class of 8 children with autism, that was my biggest challenge, that one would make a noise, another one didn't like, and they'd set another one off. That is so hard because children are putting output to block input. So actually trying to work out, like nearly having to address the child that's making the noise, that's setting another child off. But it is constant. And I feel for you because the child stops one behavior, but then they might something new and that might set another child off. So I don't have any easy answers, but just keep trying. Remember, it's like glasses. And lovely Shirley, you've got a son who's a perfectionist. Send me an email. Many of my children, though, with their perfectionisms, remember, the higher anxiety, the higher perfectionism. So if he fluctuates with that perfectionism, I would be looking, especially teenagers, their hormones. Those of you in secondary, remember hormones impact on your sensory. Hormones impact on your sleep. They might need more sleep and they don't know it. They're still doing the same amount of sleep. So often we need to look at, is that perfectionism, and I think you've done the Tony course, that one-track mind, or is it actually, if it's fluctuating, if a child's behavior fluctuates, I normally look for sensory reasons. Oh, thank you for all of those great things that you've taken away. That is so awesome. Oh, okay, I've got 1 minute left. If I haven't answered your question, send me an email. Can I ask, if you've got your phone, just grab it and do a little camera over the top of the QR code there. I would love some feedback. I find your feedback so helpful to work out what you want next. So if you can just scan it, then you'll have it for next time. Andrew, can you pop that in the chat too? I've just got a couple more things I want to tell you. So I'll put that up in a minute. So don't forget, watch out for the free Temple Grandin course on Monday, the first lesson. You will love it. If you've loved today, you will love that. So make sure you watch out for that and the $50 off Temple. I have got a live virtual coming up. If you enjoyed today and you've never done my courses and I'm not coming anywhere near you, or you're worried about COVID, Friday the 12th, I have a live virtual that's exactly like this. And I promise you it goes really, really fast like today. And if any of you want to know more about sensory, I have written a book on sensory. I don't talk about as much as I used to, but it's a really lots of practical stuff and how to set up your sensory stations and lots of practical things you can put in place at particularly the early years. You can do it with the whole group. And if you don't follow me on social media, please make sure you do. We have such a fantastic community, and I'm trying to put up top tips every Tuesday. Lots of practical tips you can put in place at home and school for all ages and stages. So I hope you've got a lot out of today. There's some other podcasts. I'll try and send these to you in an email because I'm conscious I'm rushing and you've all been amazing being here for the hour. That actually are helpful for sensory. And last but not least, those of you who are off to watch Neighbours, I hope it's as good as the PR has been. So thank you, everybody. You're amazing. Thank you for being here and joining me for the Hour of Power. So glad you got some great strategies. I'm going to read back through them in a minute. So thanks, everybody.
Hello, Sue. Are you still there?
I am.
Oh, hi. My name's Tracy. I missed half of it because I got delayed at an appointment.
Oh, don't worry.
You are. Is it possible to see a replay or something
Yep.
later on?
Absolutely, Tracy. Thanks for checking. There will be a replay going out tomorrow. So what I'm going to do now, fingers crossed, because what I have to do is download it and then upload it. So, and there'll still be prizes. So don't worry, Tracy.
Oh, I just want to say, it would have been 1990, it would have been 2006. I went to one of your courses at Hornsby, RSL, a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember that day, actually.
He actually went for a child coming into my class the next year because of his diagnosis, and I took my teacher's aide with me. And I'm not joking. As you spoke, we both sat there going, oh, my gosh, that's Ben. We went for another child, but it was tick, tick, tick. And we went away with so many strategies, and I bought you little squishy toys and little frogs.
Stop it, Tracy. You're making me teary.
But it's true. I've said in the chat that I'm still using your strategies. I just love you. I think you're so dynamic and so helpful.
Thank
I've been
you.
teaching 33 years, and I still get something from all of this.
You're so lovely, because I was so nervous today, and I just find it hard standing in a room talking to myself, or like, because I get my energy from people and people like you sitting there, and so I'm just standing here going, and then
to a screen.
and I love seeing everybody. That's why I ask people to put their names, because I do have all the screen, but it's not the same as being in that room.
No,
and
in lockdown, the best part was the Zoom with the kids. That was my favourite hour of the day. Yeah,
I agree, and that's why, as much as I love seeing you all, I still miss everybody. And hopefully we'll see. But I'm so. Sorry, my timer's going off. Look, Tracy, what I love what you just said and what it warms my soul is not only have you used that with Ben, my guess is you've used it with lots of kids since.
Every year, yeah.
And
I've got one this year in Year 4. I've taught Little East for a long time, and I've been, my first time in 15 years I'm on Year 4, and the same strategies with the older kids, just slightly different, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I was at a school yesterday, Tracy, and I don't know if you're experiencing this, but the Year 4s are like Year 2s emotionally.
Yes. Because of the COVID.
Socially and emotionally, the friendships are more like that Year 2 where they're still trying to work it out, the emotional regulation. So I'm thinking I might do a bit of a little Zoom on that, like helping children with friendships, because a lot of them are still...
It's coming out now. It didn't sort of come out when we went back in term 4 last year. It's coming out now. Yeah. And actually we've got a lovely group, but we're finding that exactly what you just said. Yeah.
They're social, emotional. They haven't taken those layers of friendships. And then my neurodiverse children are even struggling more with the playground and the social, and, you know, because you taught in the younger years, you know, normally in Year 2 you have children coming in, I didn't have anyone to play with, but by Year 4, 5, 6 they normally have it sorted. But now we've got that same emotional stuff.
That's the biggest trouble we're finding on the grade. I'm just going to tell you something really quickly before you go.
Yeah.
You know those squishy toys, you know the one that's sort of like got the gel, they're like a little spiky ball?
Yeah, I haven't got one here, but I know, the water balls.
Got the little creature inside.
Yeah, the water balls.
And I did have Ben, he had his little things to squish when he knew he was in that zone. And he came up to me and said, he came up to me randomly one day and said, I've wet myself. I'm like, oh, gosh, okay, we'll go and get some spare pants. We'll go to the toilet. It was actually one of the squishy toys. He squished it too hard.
Oh, bless. And he had, isn't that the ASD brain? Like, I've wet myself, and he had, in the literalness, I love it.
Literal, absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
bless him.
Anyway, thank you again
No,
so much.
honestly, you've made my night, because otherwise I would have turned this off and been like, I don't know, how did it go? And I have to ask my poor husband. It's like asking, how do I look?
It looks like you've just had your hair cut. It looks lovely.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to hide the greys.
I'll see you later.
Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.
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 Sue,
Yes.
Sue, before you go,
Yes.
you have seen I'm driving.
Oh, bless. Where are you driving?
Well, I was at Office Works trying to print out photos.
Yeah.
It took me 2.5 hours
No.
to print out 90 photos.
Stop it.
So I've been watching you on my...
Oh, how's everyone at Office Works? Have they enjoyed the workshop?
They said to me, what are you listening to? I said, a podcast on autism. Why? Are you autistic? I said, no, but there are a lot of people in the community that are, and I actually work with some. So,
Oh, my goodness. I love
really
it.
helps me listening to these things because I pick up tips.
Oh.
Oh,
Well,
oh.
I'm impressed that you persisted even though you're at Office Works. So,
Oh, I was really cross actually because, it really stuck me up. But I find at the start of each year, I write a book about me.
oh, nice.
What I like, things I like to do with students, routines that we like to put in place.
That is such a good. That's like a social script. Understanding your teacher. I love that.
I'm not a teacher, I'm an ES.
Oh, but you know as much as you're an
I
angel.
think-
You know I call you angels.
And then at the end of the week, we go through and I get my student to write a book about himself.
Oh,
Like
I
yourself.
love it. I love it. Can I steal that idea?
You certainly can.
Oh, I love it.
It
Okay,
works so well.
that is brilliant. I'm brilliant. I love it.
This is how I gain their trust.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Actually, I've got a workshop coming up for disengaged kids, and I think that would be a brilliant starting point. So I'm using it already. See, I'm always learning. I love this. You've made my day. Now I'm going to go to Fiona because she's got a question. So drive safely, Joe. If the police pull you over, I don't want to be responsible.
Oh, hi, Sue. This is Amanda Ogilvie. How
Oh,
are you doing?
hello. How are you?
Hi. Yes, I too attended that seminar back in 2006
Stop.
at Hornsby. And since then, moved around the state, out at MacArthur.
Oh.
And, yeah, it's great. It's good. And, I attended your seminar out here when you did it with Tony Atwood, Campbelltown Way.
That was a great day. Well, I've done a few out there at Tony. It's great out at Campbelltown. I always enjoy those.
I was just wondering with the blue book purchased, is the downloadable included if you buy the physical copy, or is it one or the other, or one end the other?
Do you mean the my blue book for teacher assistants? This one?
Yeah. Yes.
This one? Yeah, it's either an ebook, but it's spiral bound, the actual one, so you can photocopy it. Like, I have no copyright on things. You know me, the more you copy, the more you share. Yeah. So it's purposely spiral bound, unlike these ones, so you can copy it and highlight it and sort of go, these are the strategies that work with this child. And the reason I've done that is because it's easy to lie on the photocopier. Do you know? So, I'd recommend get the hard copy because then you can keep printing it and using it. I mean, ebooks are great. I agree, and I love doing them too. But this one I particularly done like that in my early years ones too because I want everyone sharing the information. And so,
no, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I can't break the pattern of getting a physical copy.
I know.
Thought, I just can't do it.
I know. I'm the same. I tried listening to audiobooks, but I love flicking back. I've worked out I like reading, flicking back and forth in a non-fiction book. Do you know? So yeah, because you sort of go, oh, what was that? And I'll go back. Whereas in the audio, you only get to hear it, or you have to re-listen. I don't know. I like the physical too. So I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, lovely to hear from you.
Take care.
You too, and thank you. I
See
can't
you on
believe
the next one.
there must have been a good session in Hornsby in 2006 that we've got all of you on here today, or I don't know. Okay. Thanks.
It was.
You're lovely. Thanks, everyone. Anyone else got a question? I'm happy to take one. I'm just trying to work out. Anyone else?
Hello, Sue.
Oh, hi, Kitty.
I am so very happy for you that you attend my questions. Thank you so very much.
Oh, my
and
pleasure.
I'm very, very thrilled that I'm hearing your voice and everything that you've said. It sounds familiar to me.
Oh,
thank you
good.
so very much.
My absolute pleasure. And please go back, try some things, and then email me. I love helping. So once you try some things and they work or don't work, just email me and I'm happy to help. So I'm glad I got to answer your question.
Thank you very much, Sue. Vinaka.
Vinaka to you too. Okay, I don't think anyone else. Joe, have you got your hand up? Are you there, Joe? Sorry, I'm looking on the screen here. I can't see. Okay, I think everyone. Okay, I'm going to say good night to everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending and staying for those little chats at the end. That was really lovely. And have an amazing evening. Thank you, everyone.
Mogamanda.
Mogamanda. I love that. I've got to learn some of these words.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. I hope you've got some great tips and strategies to make a difference. Remember, strategies wear out and not every strategy works for everybody. If you're ready to dive in deeper to more strategies and ideas to make a difference, I'd highly recommend you consider Dr. Tony Atwood or my online courses. For more information, visit my website www.suelaki.com.au.